Welcome into OutKick the show. I am your fearless leader, Clay Travis. It is the Wednesday edition of OutKick the show. Going to go and do my gambling picks as soon as I am done with this program. And those will be up a little bit later on OutKick. Encourage you, if you are at all interested in the future of college athletics and you want to hear a nuanced, long-form discussion about the future of college athletics, I'm going to be doing more and more of these. And there is one that went up this morning that I will share from my Twitter account that I will link from the gambling picks, and that is up on YouTube right now. Go to our YouTube channel. Cody Campbell, billionaire booster for Texas Tech. I think you will enjoy the conversation. Again, long form. It's something you can download. You can take it on the road if you're traveling for college football or with NFL kicking off tomorrow. I think you will enjoy it. We got a lot to dive into. Reminder, we do a college football and NFL gambling special on the show every Thursday with Kelly Stewart from a.k.a. Kelly in Vegas. That will be going tomorrow with obviously the NFL returning tomorrow. But I want to start today with a clip that I saw going viral last night. And it is Malcolm Gladwell, who I think, alongside of Michael Lewis, and I think Malcolm Gladwell even more so, I would suggest is the most famous nonfiction writer in America today. He has sold tens of millions, probably, of books overall. Tipping Point is the most famous, I would assume, book of the Malcolm Gladwell catalog. And here he was talking about the fact that he had attended an MIT conference on sports analytics, the Sloan Conference, I think it's called. And there was a discussion there about whether or not trans individuals should be able to compete in women's athletics, right? Let's be clear here. Men, whether men should be able to compete in women's athletics or not, at the time he said they should. Now he wants to issue an apology, say he was wrong, and that clearly they should not be able to do so. Let's watch that discussion, and then I'll react.
If we did a replay of that exact panel at the Sloan Conference this coming March, it runs in exactly the opposite direction. And it would be, I suspect, near unanimity in the room that trans athletes have no place in the female category. I don't think there's any question.
Okay, I've got a significant thought on this, a bunch of thoughts. First, I think we should give grace, we should give forgiveness when people come out and say, I was wrong on an issue, I now recognize that, and I feel like I was bullied, or I feel like I was pushed, intimidated, cowed into taking this position. So I welcome Malcolm Gladwell onto the side of sanity when it comes to men and women's sports. And I actually believe him. Some people are saying, oh, this is super convenient. That's a fair take as well. How can I trust him? What were you afraid of? I actually believe him when he says that he felt bullied in order to speak out on this issue. And let me tell you my own experience for why I believe that to be true. So we were at OutKick, one of the most successful sports gambling affiliate companies in the nation, when sports gambling began to go legal. And let me take you, I don't know that people have done a really good job of explaining sort of the early days when sports gambling was becoming legal, but we were one of the top affiliates for FanDuel, maybe the top affiliate for FanDuel. It was me and OutKick and Pat McAfee. Nobody in 2020 and 2021 was signing up more people than us at OutKick and Pat McAfee with his shows. We were the top two, and I think we might have been number one overall. And we got, at OutKick, primarily me, because I own 90% of the company, every single time somebody signed up for FanDuel and created an account and wagered, we got $350 with the code Clay or with the code OutKick or any of the other codes from the other people that we employed. So every time somebody signed up, we got $350. And we were making millions and millions of dollars a year on sports gambling. In fact, I've told this story before. I may or may not have on this show. Super Bowl between the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 2021 and the Kansas City Chiefs, we made at the company over $2 million that day alone of the Super Bowl. That is, I made more money than anybody playing in the Super Bowl that day, okay? And we were one of the top affiliates for FanDuel. We sell to FanDuel, sell to Fox. FanDuel relationship continues. Fox starts getting that money, and then our FanDuel relationship ends. FanDuel, I was not involved in these negotiations, told Fox, and it was conveyed to me, that FanDuel was uncomfortable with how outspoken I was on men in women's sports and being opposed to it. And they said they did not feel comfortable continuing to have a relationship with OutKick and me because of how aggressive we were covering men and women's sports. So we were making at the time $7, $8, $9 million a year from FanDuel, and FanDuel just said, we're not doing this anymore. So when Malcolm Gladwell says there was bullying, there were consequences, I felt cowed, I felt like I was being kept from saying what I really think. If you wonder, how crazy is it that OutKick was and is still, to a large degree, the only outspoken media platform in sports fighting back against men and women's sports, even though the vast majority of sports fans agree with us? It's because there were real consequences. A lot of these marketing agencies are woke on a level that you can't even imagine. And they would look at somebody like me and they would say, he has the wrong public opinions. We're not going to give him or his company money anymore. And even though it would have been smarter for me from a purely business perspective to just shut my mouth and throw away the key on this issue, I can't shut up. I can't. I am unwilling to avoid saying exactly what I think. In fact, the only thing I care about is being able to say exactly what I think. Now, I don't expect that you're always going to agree with me on this show, but the entire reason I founded a company was so nobody could ever tell me for the rest of my career, you can't say that. And in fact, anybody that has ever tried to tell me for my entire career, you can't say that, the first opportunity to never work with them again, I take. And that is because I believe if I'm not telling you exactly what I think, what value am I providing? If you can pay me money to tiptoe up to what I really think, then I can't sit and talk to you and feel like I'm being honest with you. Most people took the money and shut up. There were some people who actively took the money and argued against what they actually believed because the money was so good. I'm here to tell you, OutKick didn't do it because I wouldn't do it. We lost. I cost the company millions and millions of dollars because I wouldn't say men should be able to compete in women's sports, and because I simply wouldn't avoid the topic at all. We have had a lot of people refuse to spend money because I am controversial. And FanDuel was one of them, even though I made FanDuel arguably more money than any affiliate they've ever had in the history of the company. One reason FanDuel is the biggest sports gambling company in America today is because we helped sign up tens of thousands of sports gamblers for FanDuel under our affiliate arrangement. And yet, their marketing agency, to be fair, it may not have gone all the way to the CEO. I don't know how high up it went. I don't know where the directive came from. They said Clay Travis is too controversial. We're not going to touch him. The reason why I'm telling this story is because Malcolm Gladwell is telling you the truth. There oftentimes is significant financial pressure that is brought to bear by left-wing organizations to try to stop the marketplace of ideas from actually working. If you wonder why so many people had nothing to say on this issue, it's because they took the money and shut up. And now now that the culture has shifted and we have won this battle, suddenly the pressure is not there and everybody is able to come back, and suddenly the Malcolm Gladwells of the world are saying, you know what, I was bullied, this wasn't true. And what this just continues to confirm for me is courage of conviction is rare, cowardice is dominant. Most people are not brave enough to say exactly what they think because they fear the consequences. I probably have something wrong with me that I don't. I would rather bear the consequences for saying exactly what I think than potentially make way more money and shut up. And that is the truth. So that's the behind-the-scenes story. If a sports gambling company is concerned about saying men shouldn't compete in women's athletics, imagine what soft drink companies were saying, or fast food companies were saying, or all of these huge corporations were saying. I'm here to tell you the wokest industry in America is advertising. They will buy the furthest left-wing ad on the planet. They won't buy ads in about 60% of American programming. And so I do think this is significant because the culture tries to control what you can say, and Malcolm Gladwell isn't wrong. There would have been professional consequences for him. He would have made less money, i.e. he would have made less money, if he had spoken out and said men shouldn't be able to compete in women's sports. So I welcome him to the correct side, but I also think that you all out there should understand and have a behind-the-scenes look at why the sports media industry was so broken on this issue. Why did ESPN make a public service announcement calling Leah Thomas a women's sports hero? Because it made advertisers happy. They spent more money with ESPN if they lied to you. And I would just say, as a consumer, I think you should know these things. That speaking the truth, and it is an objective biological truth that men are bigger, stronger, faster than women, it actually cost me money. People are like, oh, you're a grifter. I could have made way more money by being super left-wing. This show would be sponsored by McDonald's and Coke and Buffalo Wild Wings. And there would be so many ads in this show that you would barely be able to make it through the programming. They all would have thrown money at me. I'd have been driving a Mercedes, drinking a Bud Light while I ate a huge bucket of fried chicken with Subway on my in the back seat. They would have paid me in gold dollars if I had just said, man, you know what? Chicks with dicks are awesome. I wouldn't do it. Still won't do it. For better or worse, I say exactly what I think. And oftentimes, in terms of dollars, it actually costs me money. So that's the reality. I've written about this before. Fox, back in the day, FS1, they said, hey, Clay, we'll give you a show. So this sounds awesome. It's probably 2016. They said, but you can never mention politics again. I said, why? They said, well, you're a Southern white guy. Your politics are not great in the sports world. All we want is for you to give only sports opinions. Tell me who the best team is. Tell me who the best quarterback is. Leave everything else behind. And I said, well, all I tell my audience, I'm going to tell you exactly what I think. I said, yeah, you don't need the audience anymore. You're going to make a lot of money. You get your own television show. I said no. So you can hate me. You can think that I am the biggest grifter on the planet. Let me tell you, I'd have made a lot more money going left wing. I'd be eating a Subway sandwich right now and drinking a Coke live on this program, and they'd be giving me millions of dollars. The wokest industry in the entire world, in my experience, advertising agencies. I've told this story before, by the way. Right after we sold, Fox bought OutKick. They were like, Clay, we want you to go meet all the advertisers. This is true. New York City, one of the big ad agencies. They set up a meeting. Walk in. I think it was like, I tweeted about it because it turned into a big thing. Walk into the ad agency. Girl at the front desk says, hey, just so you know, meeting is set up. They're waiting in the conference room for you, but we need to see your vaccine card. Swear to God. It's probably early 2022. Maybe it was late 2021. I'm like, well, I didn't get the COVID shot. They're like, well, you aren't allowed to go to a meeting here. I said, all right, I'll just turn around and leave. I mean, I'm not getting the COVID shot. I don't have a card to show you. Eventually, they let me in to the meeting. Advertising agency to go to a meeting required that me show an up-to-date COVID shot for them in New York City. Honestly, I really want to start my own advertising agency, and all I do is buy ads at companies that aren't run by pussies. Because most companies are run by pussies, and all advertising agencies are, frankly, run by pussies. So there's the reality. That is what tying in with Malcolm Gladwell. It's starting to change all of a sudden because Trump won, and because now Bud Light has consequences, and Cracker Barrel has consequences, and the NBA has had consequences. Turns out not trying to buy ads for the whole nation is dumb. Look, I don't begrudge. If I ran a company that was designed, if I ran Pizza Hut, right, I would buy ads on MSNBC, CNN, and Fox News. And I would try to serve the entire nation pizza. If I ran Nike, I would buy ads on Fox News, on MSNBC, and CNN. None of this is crazy. If I ran Applebee's, I would buy ads across the political spectrum because I would want everyone of every different political belief to come into my restaurant or to buy my shoes or to consume my product. But advertising doesn't work that way. They have recognized that the way to grab people by their balls and to influence artificially the direction of national discourse is to try to stifle anyone with quote unquote the wrong opinion. And so this trans thing is collapsing now, but understand why ESPN was saying, oh, Leah Thomas is the woman of the year. It was to make all these woke advertising agencies happy so they could walk in and show them that, and then they get money spent like crazy. It's a fundamentally broken system, and I think it's important. And this doesn't even go into the fact that the algorithms were rigged so that if you had the wrong opinions online, they wouldn't allow your arguments to freely compete. all of a sudden my stuff is going mega viral on Instagram. We had on TikTok, one of my takes had 3 million views the other day. My takes haven't changed. I haven't done something different than over the last 12 years or whatever of doing OutKick. Suddenly, we're just allowed to compete in an open marketplace. And all of a sudden, my opinions are everywhere. My kids came to me the other day. They're like, Dad, every time I open Instagram, your OutKick stuff is everywhere. And you go look at the numbers, and that's reflected. Well, Instagram used to, this is true, they used to have a page pop up. If you tried to follow OutKick or me on Instagram, it would say, this page can't be trusted because they have questioned the efficacy of the COVID shot. COVID vaccine, they called it. This was real. Like, people would screenshot it to me all the time. They would say, hey, you know, when I tried to go subscribe to you on Instagram, a screen popped up and said, oh, he's questioned the efficacy of the COVID vaccine. Now the CDC doesn't even recommend it for young kids. I'm telling you, man, some of y'all don't even have a clue how deep the matrix goes. This is why I got red-pilled. Because I could see it. I could see it. It was like I was Neo, able to look in the way the coding is moving. We did not, and still don't, but it's better now than it was. We did not have anywhere close to a free marketplace. And I think what Malcolm Gladwell is saying, this is why I give people grace, and this is why some of y'all should shut up. You know how I say, don't be a pussy? And then I say, sometimes be a pussy? In my opinion, your number one responsibility is to your family. And so if you're a dad and you're watching me right now and you got a mortgage and you're a mom and you're trying to get your kid into college and you know you're going to have to pay for that tuition, I wouldn't get on Facebook and call out the company for their woke DEI policies because you might get fired. And you might lose that $70,000 a year job that's paying your mortgage or that's allowing you to help save money for your kid to go to college one day. I will fight those battles for you. I got your back. But the people I have real contempt for are the people who are super rich and are still cowards. Because if you got money and you're a pussy, what's the point of money? I mean, honestly, I don't care if I get invited to fancy parties. I'd rather not go. I don't care if I get invited on some charity board. I'd rather just hang out and go watch my kids play sports. Maybe I'm weird. I genuinely don't care what anybody thinks about me at all outside of this house. Now, there's probably reasons why that's a flaw. And I can't shut my mouth. And sometimes that means people get mad at me because I say what other people think and never say. I've got your back. But what about you pussies with tons of money who agree with everything that I say but aren't willing to ever say it yourself or put your money down and actually impact the direction of the country? I got a lot of contempt for y'all. If you disagree with me, I think you're wrong. But nobody on the left is afraid to put their money down. Hell, they'll pay for protests. They'll pay for DAs who won't prosecute anybody. Motherfuckers on the left put their money down. They stand strong behind what they say. There's a lot of pussies on the right. And it matters if you have money whether you speak out or not. Because if you've got money on the right, you can impact the direction the country goes in a big way. I give credit. Look, people, President Trump didn't need any of this. He was super famous already. He was super rich already. He could have cruised the rest of his life, played the best golf courses in the world, stayed out of the political world, and his life would have been amazing. Every rapper in America would still be dropping his name in every song. But he was like, this is broken. I'm going to try to fix it, which is what we should want rich people to do. And let me give credit here because I'm going to talk about this in a sec. J.K. Rowling. If you told me right now who is the bravest member of the British nation, I think I would say J.K. Rowling. She is a billionaire. She wrote the best, in my opinion, children's books of all time, the Harry Potter series. They made them into hugely successful movies. They turned Universal Studios into a Harry Potter kingdom. She could have stayed completely out of politics and just continued to print money and become even more fabulously wealthy, and everybody would be talking about how she's one of the greatest humans to ever live. Instead, she saw this gender BS, and she refused to allow it to be something that she was not going to speak out on. Now, they don't have the same political opinions on everything, but those are the people I look up to who actually have money. Because if you have money and you aren't willing to say, fuck you every now and then, what's the point of the money? You're just a rich coward. And there isn't much difference between cowards ultimately. So my thing on it in general is, if you've got money, you should have stood up and spoken out about what you knew was wrong a long time ago. But I will give you grace for people like Malcolm Gladwell who now come out publicly and say, yeah, this is wrong. Because I do think rather than attack people who suddenly are willing to say what I've been saying for years, I want to welcome people to my side. That is how you win arguments. But I still have a lot of contempt for a lot of rich people who refuse to get involved in standing up for what they know is right. So that's me on a soapbox. All right. What else we got out there? Alabama. Somebody out there was like, I don't know, you're obsessed with Alabama. Alabama sucks now, and they used to be good. And it's impossible not to see these stories. This is Chris Lowe and Andy Staples, who both work now at, they're friends of mine. I know them well. They both now work at another friends of mine company, Shannon Terry, based here in Nashville on 3. And they have this story that's out that features a bunch of behind-the-scenes boosters at Alabama saying all is not well in Kalen DeBoer's regime. This is a big deal, okay? When the boosters start speaking out, the people who actually fund the Alabama football program, about being unhappy with what they are seeing with Nick Saban gone now, this is a sign that Kalen DeBoer is now on really thin ice, okay? Because when they start speaking out, they are the ones who fund the Alabama football program. And I am here to tell you that if Alabama loses to Georgia, and I'm going to be at that game down in Athens, I think it's going to be very hard for Kalen DeBoer to build back up any kind of legitimacy with them. Now, I don't think they're going to be able to fire him at the end of this year. I think he would get year 3. And if I'm Kalen DeBoer, I'm saying you're paying me every dollar that you owe me if you decide to cut a check to fire me. I think he'll be back for year 3. But I think things can get toxic really fast down in Alabama. And I shared with you yesterday, basically from 1983 to 2008, Alabama won 1 national championship and 3 SEC championships. And people said, oh, well, Tennessee sucks. They didn't even address my point. That's still better than Tennessee. Let me tell you something. If Nick Saban had come to Tennessee instead of Alabama, Tennessee would have won all of the championships that Alabama won. Alabama didn't win the championships. Nick Saban did. Nick Saban could have stayed at LSU, and I think he would have won all those championships. Nick Saban could have gone to Florida, and I think he would have won all those championships. Nick Saban could have gone to Georgia, and I think he would have won all those championships. Nick Saban could have gone to Tennessee, and I think he would have won all those championships. Nick Saban is not a reflection of Alabama. Alabama is a reflection of Nick Saban. So all the Tide fans, he could have done it at Texas. He could have done it at Texas A&M. Any of the top half SEC football programs that have the huge stadiums and the historic success levels, Nick Saban could have won at the same level there that he did at Alabama. That's the reality. So Alabama's success under Saban was about Saban, not Alabama. The coach matters way more than the program. And I think a lot of Alabama fans are going to become aware of this. This is, to me, analogous to the argument, why was the New England Patriot dynasty successful? Because of Brady. It used to be a real argument. And a lot of people would say, no, it's Belichick. Brady won because of Belichick. Now no one argues. No one out there at all argues that the reason the Patriot dynasty had the level of success it did was Belichick over Brady. Brady went to Tampa Bay. He won a national championship. If Saban went to Tennessee tomorrow, he'd win a national championship, I think, within 3 years. And people would say, oh, it wasn't Alabama, it was Saban. Now, combined, they won. That's fair. But Saban is the reason Bama won, not Alabama. And I think you're going to find out about that in the years ahead. Here is President Trump talking about Alabama with Tommy Tuberville. Congratulations to Rocket City, Tennessee, Huntsville, Alabama. Fantastic place. Love it down there. Not too far from where I'm talking to you right now, just a little bit south of town. Right above, right south of the Tennessee border in the northern Alabama hills. It's a beautiful spot, good place to raise a family. Here's Trump saying, I'm not even going to talk about Alabama. Let's go ahead and dive into this. And he has a little statement about Auburn, too. Watch.
Tuberville, who's a great coach. And I won't say anything about what happened with Alabama football this weekend.
Let's leave that out.
But you're not used to that, right? You're not used to that. But Tommy, Auburn won, is right. They did. So you're happy. Tommy's been a great senator, and a fantastic guy all around. He was also a tremendous coach.
All right. Let me play a couple of more clips for you, and then I got to go do my gambling picks for college football week 2. I wanted to play this for you. Jasmine Crockett is now considered by some to be one of the faces of the Democrat Party. And there was a clip of her talking to, I'm assuming, predominantly black voters in Texas. And I wanted to contrast it with the way that she spoke when she announced her candidacy for Congress and the way she spoke in this event. Let's play it for you, let you hear it side by side. Jasmine Crockett, Congresswoman from Texas.
First of all, it's good to see you in the new year. No one could have told me that when I went down to Austin, now it looks like a little bit over a year ago, that I would be running for Congress.
Baby, because these people, they are crazy, because they always talk about how Christian they is. Yeah, I don't know how many of them on that side are getting divorced because they getting caught up sleeping with their co-workers, staffers, interns, all the things. Yeah, you ain't got to believe me. Just go Google. You'll find some of it. I'm telling you, and the wives is being messy and petty. They putting it in.
All right. I have a great deal of contempt here for Jasmine Crockett. And I actually look at her, I think we're around the almost exact same age. And I actually feel sorry for her parents because Jasmine Crockett's parents scrimped and saved as hard as they possibly could to put their daughter in a $35,000 a year high school in Missouri. And then they scrimped and they saved to get her into $70,000 a year Rhodes College, which is a super elite private school in the Memphis area, actually where Amy Coney Barrett went to undergrad as well. What does that tell me? Jasmine Crockett is not a grammatically challenged moron, as she sounded in that second clip. And people say, well, she's just trying to talk to her constituency. Let me tell you this right now. I tell my kids all the time. And if you've got daughters, I think sometimes girls feel compelled to do this. If you are trying to talk to appear less intelligent than you actually are to an audience, then leave. Let me repeat that. I think this is good dad advice. I think this is good mom advice. If you find yourself surrounded by a group of people who you feel compelled to sound dumb while talking to, you need to leave, because you're insulting them by actually pretending that you are dumb. I've said this before. When I was a single guy, it was a long time ago, first thing that made me uninterested in a girl was if she told me, you're smart. Yeah, I know I'm fucking smart. I mean, this is not a revolutionary idea. We have standardized test scores. I make good grades, right? Went to good schools. When one of the first things someone says to you is you're so smart, what they're actually doing is they're telling on themselves as not being very smart. And I think there are lots of young girls out there that try to appear to be dumber than they are because they think boys will like it. If you're around those boys, leave. You can do better. And if you're a boy and you're around girls and you're trying to appear to be dumber than you are to fit in, leave. You don't want to be in a group that requires you to be less intelligent than you are. And I watched that clip, and I actually am insulted on behalf of Jasmine Crockett's parents, but I'm also insulted on behalf of that audience, because the way she's speaking to them actually, to me, shows that she has a great deal of contempt for them, because she's not talking to them as the educated person that she is. She's talking to them as if they're otherwise not able to comprehend her when she speaks, as she typically would on the floor of the House. And look, people get it. Nobody wants a dumb lawyer. Everybody wants a lawyer that is super smart. Everybody wants an accountant that is super smart. Doesn't matter what your background is. Everybody wants a doctor that is really on the ball. Pretending that you are not intelligent to try to appeal to an audience, I think actually ultimately is self-destructive, because all that matters is authenticity. And you have to talk to everybody the same. I talk, whether you love me, hate me, exact same to every audience that I speak to all day long, every day. I am what I am. And over time, that means that people have come to trust me. Not because you always agree with me, but just because there is no difference between me in normal life and me on this camera right now talking to you on YouTube or Twitter or Instagram or wherever the hell you're watching. This matters. You might say, why do I care what happens outside the United States? I care because right now in England, they are attacking free speech. And by free speech, I mean they are attacking comedians who make tweets that they don't like. 5 officials show up to arrest Graham Linehan in England. Let's watch.
According to Graham Linehan, because the only thing the police have said is that they've acknowledged a man was arrested on suspicion of inciting violence. That's why the police say they turned up. What's your view, Mr. Polanski?
These are totally unacceptable tweets, and I accept that people who are in politics, we get lots of abuse, but let's also face we shouldn't get abuse. Yeah, and I certainly recognise that women get more abuse than I do. For instance, I get a lot of anti-Semitic abuse. I'm one of a few Jewish leaders that have been in British politics. Today, a Muslim man was elected as my deputy leader, Motin Ali. I've seen the amount of Islamophobia he gets. We also know that for all of those groups, trans people have been in the sights of the nastiness and the toxicity for a long time. Now, I accept proportionality of police response is a conversation we need to have.
But well, do you think this was proportionate?
I think it was proportionate to arrest him. I think there's a pattern here.
5 armed police officers turning up?
Well, that's the bit that I don't understand why they were armed. And again, I'd need to hear about the police response.
And why there were 5, presumably.
For sure.
This matters. I'm going to say it. I'll continue to say it. I am never going to attack a comedian for a joke, ever. I might not like a joke. I might say it's not funny. I might be the butt of jokes at some point. Jokes are good. White, black, Asian, and Hispanic people should be the butt of jokes. Gay, straight, trans, whatever your sexuality is, you should be the butt of a joke. Skinny, fat. Jokes should exist. We should never be in a position where we take clear jokes as some kind of unacceptable speech, period. I will always defend comedians. And the fact that this is happening in England, there are a lot of people in America that if they could, would arrest people for jokes. Do not ever be someone that is of the opinion that a joke is so serious that you should be arrested for it. Now, sometimes there are jokes that take the next step and actually end up in threats, right? That's different. I'm just talking about jokes, which this clearly was. This should matter. All of Western civilization should be founded on the principle of free speech, free expression, and open marketplace of ideas. All right, I have a few questions from you guys, and some of these are, we got to do a better job, Adam. Some of these are so long that I can't actually read or react to. So I need, in the comments, if you are going to make a comment, you need to be like 3 sentences at most if you want me to respond. You can write an entire column. I don't have time on a live show to read and analyze your entire column. People in the comments can. That's not going to be me. Clay, why do you not have Georgia in your top 10? I do this every year. I rank in the starting 11. I rank teams entirely based on the field results. Georgia opened with Marshall. I cannot learn anything about the Georgia football team from a game against Marshall. Could I learn about Auburn against Baylor? Yeah. Could I learn about Tennessee against Syracuse? Yes. LSU against Clemson? Of course. Texas on the road against Ohio State, Alabama against Florida State. All of those games, when one power conference team plays another power conference team, South Carolina against Virginia Tech, we can learn from. Iowa State, Kansas State, Utah, UCLA. I rank teams based on watching them play power conference competition. So I'm not saying Georgia's not good. I'm saying until I see Georgia lining up against somebody good in a power conference, one of those top 50-ish programs, it's very hard to rank a team. So I have substantial vacillation from one day to 1 week to the next. To be fair, Saban left suddenly with no succession plan in place. So at the time, DeBoer was coming off a national championship game appearance and was the best hire available. He's hired amateur coordinators, not a disciplinarian, and the players are taking full advantage and lazy. Look, I don't know that every coach works at every program. I told you earlier, Nick Saban, I believe, would work at every program, right? I think Nick Saban would have won multiple national championships at Tennessee, Georgia, Florida, Texas A&M, Oklahoma, Auburn. Obviously, he did it at Alabama, LSU, right? Top half SEC programs, historically, Saban would have won national championships. Kalen DeBoer may have won a national championship at Washington if he had stayed. I don't know. He obviously got to the national championship game there. The culture of Washington is very different in Seattle than the culture of Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Lane Kiffin can speak to this. When Lane Kiffin came from USC and suddenly took over at Tennessee, I think he was like, holy crap, this is a very different place. So culture still impacts, I think, for some coaches, the level of significance that the level of success that they can have. And I think Nick Saban understood the culture of the South and was able to move within it. I'm not sure Kalen DeBoer does. And Lane Kiffin will tell you, when he got to Tennessee the first time, one reason he left and went to SC, he was like, I can't do this. I think he said this publicly, that Dolly Parton and him were like the most famous people in the whole state of Tennessee. At SC, Lane Kiffin's like the 450th most famous person in the Los Angeles area, maybe lower. You can walk around and have a totally normal life in LA. I think this is one reason that Lincoln Riley, candidly, wanted to leave Oklahoma and go to SC. I think he was like, I want to have a normal life. You can't go out to dinner in Knoxville if you're Josh Heupel and not talk to 25 people. It's true. John Calipari at Kentucky coaching basketball, you either thrive in that environment or you're like, man, this is not for me. And I wonder on some level whether Kalen DeBoer stepped into a culture that he didn't understand. Let me say this. I feel like I can speak to it a little bit. Taking over in any way for a legend is very, very hard. Buck and I stepped in after Rush died into one of the most difficult jobs in the history of radio. And I think we've thrived. I think we've done well. But it's a big deal. And if you're not prepared for it, you're constantly going to be judged in the context of someone who was a legend. And I don't begrudge Kalen DeBoer making the decision to go take over at Alabama because people call him a failure if he gets fired. Dude, he's going to get $100 million. 99.99999% of people in America are failures if you judge Kalen DeBoer getting fired at Alabama as a failure. Kalen DeBoer's not a failure. Jimbo Fisher's not a failure. Sometimes you go to a big job and it doesn't work like you wanted it to be. But you took that big challenge. You didn't shrink from it. You didn't stay where you knew you could be successful. Look, let me give you an example. I could have done local sports talk radio in Nashville for the rest of my life. I would have had the #1 show in local sports talk radio in Nashville for the rest of my life. Beyond a shadow of a doubt. The risk was in leaving and trying to do something bigger. If I had left and failed at that, it wouldn't mean that I was a failure. It would mean that I reached for something larger and ended up not being able to attain it. But that's what you should do. You should constantly be challenging yourself to try to achieve something more. I'm not a maintain guy. I like to build. And maintenance to me is not a lot of fun. Because, and every coach will say this, it's a lot more fun to take over a 2-10 team and try to build them to 10-2 than it is to stay 10-2 every year for the future. Ask James Franklin. Maintaining excellence is not as much fun as building to excellence. And so people are like, oh, he's a failure. Like, no. Kalen DeBoer took an incredible opportunity that means that his family is going to have generational wealth, and it just may not work out. Happens in life. He's still, I think, probably likely to be a successful coach somewhere else if it doesn't work at Alabama. So I just categorically reject that. Okay. Appreciate all of you. I'll be back tomorrow live for a couple of different shows. Click like, click subscribe. If you have comments for me, they need to be only like 2 or 3 sentences. Get to the punch if you want me to answer a question, because I can't read 800-word posts. Now, you're welcome to write entire columns and make your argument for the audience in the columns as much as you want, but if you want me responding, then it's got to be something punchy that I can get to fast. All right, love all of you. DBAP unless you SBAP, or, by the way, Adam, you can synthesize the question. Like, hey, this person wrote 800 words, but really what they wanted to know was this sentence, right? Story in a sentence. All right, love all of you. I'll see you guys tomorrow.